Today we're taking a look at how to make this explosion effect on the cheap. Hey, what's up guys? Ryan Walker here. Welcome back to another tutorial, and based on the poll results, I'll post them here. Close vote, but we're doing the green screen explosion effect today, and we'll do the slow-mo effect next week since that was in second place. And today we're just continuing to break down the super low budget, embarrassing effects from the film trailer I did, 5 years ago for my wedding. So let's go ahead and dive right in and do this sort of breakdown slash tutorial. All right, cool. So here we go. So here's the effect we're going to break down today. We got this slow motion sort of walking explosion effect happening with a little bit of camera shake. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So what I did right now is I kind of left the explosion layers and everything in there right now, and we'll break it all down individually, but let's start with the effects. So the first thing we have here is we have our footage. And when I say low budget, this is low budget. I mean, look how miserable these guys are. But hey, they're good friends. I got my buddy Nathan here. I got my buddy John. And so what we have is we just have a sort of walking effect. And this is actually shot at 720p, 60 frames a second, because at the time, that's all we had is just a DSLR to shoot on. So what we'll do is the first thing I'll do with this 60p footage is I'm going to right click it. Let's interpret the footage main, and we'll change this back to 23.976. Whoops. And what that's going to do is that's going to give us our slow motion effect. It's going to, drop the speed down by at least half. And let's go ahead and we're going to drop that back into our composition here. And let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control-Alt-F to scale this back up to 1920 by 1080, because that's what the majority of the film was edited in. Any effects that were slow motion we did in 60 frames per second, so there is a slight scale up. So let's just go ahead and do some simple keying and show you kind of how to tackle something like this. So the first thing we do is get rid of this awesome background that we don't need. So, I'll just go ahead and make a little mask here. Shift this over, and let's see, just make sure that we stay inside the green. Come over a little bit more, and we'll take the top out too. And I'm kind of just leaving, the bare essentials of what we need. So let's just go ahead and I'll show you some of the tips I like to use for keying poorly lit green screen. And I can say that because we did it. It was my fault. But anyways, so I'll just go ahead and start things off with key light. I'll double click that. And I'll select our eyedropper here. I'm going to hold Control to get a few more pixels in there. And the first thing I almost always do is I switch to screen matte, just so we can see kind of what we're working with here. And we want everything to be black and white. We got a little bit of black in here, which means there'll be some transparent spots. So we need to go ahead. And one of the things I like to do to kind of get my overall base is just re-grab the color picker and kind of just move this around to see if we can clean some of that up. And what we're actually kind of cleaning up a little bit more is the side. So let's go ahead and look at that. So I'm just kind of moving down and over, shifting through all of them. And trying to get as much white as I can on us and black in the background. So it looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and select that. And the next thing I'll do is in the screen matte, I'm going to clip the whites. And let's go ahead and set this back to final result and see what we have. All right, cool. So we got a little bit of splotchiness coming through. What I might do is change our replace method to hard color. And that's picking it right back up. So one of the things that we can start doing with edges, we can actually go back to our green screen color and kind of just shift this around to see if we can get rid of some of that halo. So there we go. I mean, me personally, I don't really like doing much with the screen game because, it starts to introduce a little bit of weird noise and artifacts. So I try to do as many steps as I can before getting to that point. So, we got our basic key now, and let's go ahead and start cleaning this up a little bit more. The next tool I'll do to kind of bring the edges in a little bit more is I'll just do a simple choker. Kind of choke that in a little bit more. Another effect I really like from KeyCorrect is edge blur. And, you know, we do have matte options in Keylight. I just like Edge Blur because it's fast and it kind of lets me see the edges right as I'm working on it here. All right. And then the last effect I like to use is also from KeyCorrect, and that's Light Wrap. Now, we don't have a background currently for Light Wrap, so let's go ahead and let's just jump into our car bomb effect here. And this is the overall explosion. Let's just jump into this and I'll kind of show you the layers that I end up using. Go ahead and delete those wood layers since I didn't use them. So basically all I have here is just a compilation of effects, all from Action Essentials 2K. So I added a little bit of flying debris, you know, a couple layers of that, just to kind of get some particles exploding up. And then in the beginning here, I start to add some of our explosions. So I just have explosion 07 here, but you know, that's not big enough. So we add a little bit of a dirt charge coming up there to get some of the ground. And then what I did is I used 2 of the car bomb effects. So if I kind of just solo those real quick, kind of see we get this nice big overall explosion. I duplicated that and I rotated it the other way and sort of stretched it out just so it didn't look perfect. And so that's basically all the background. It was just a combination of effects until I got a nice big explosion. These also all have a little bit of a fast blur on it, just so it's not so perfect. And I added those on the debris flying around, even though I know I'm going to make this a little out of focus. But so I'll close that up. And so right now we're kind of getting somewhere. We got a little bit of stuff coming off of the sides here, but no need to worry about that. And what I'm going to do really quick is I want to unparent these to our handheld tracking, and I'll show you how we do that here in a second. So that's our explosion background there. We got our slow motion walking, we got our explosion happening. And let's go ahead, and what I did is, since I knew this film, or you know, this trailer was just for friends and family and for personal use, I went ahead and just grabbed a cool little background image that I thought looked, you know, that could be a gas station explosion, maybe, I don't know. So go ahead and I grabbed that, and let's go back to my composition. I added a little bit of camera lens blur to make it look out of focus. And I brought the exposure down to sort of match the footage a little bit more and not have it be so bright. So we got our background, we got our car bomb, we have our quote unquote actors walking away, which they're not looking at the explosion, which, you know, in your effect shot, that's what's going to sell this, is don't look back. And let's see, so on top of that, I also added a little bit of Action Essentials atmosphere. And now that I'm kind of looking at this, maybe I'll bring that down a little bit. A little too heavy. And one of the last things we need to do is we need to get that handheld shake. And the last examples I've done the last few weeks, I've went ahead and used an expression, but this time I'm going to practice what I preach, and we're going to track this handheld footage that I shot. So here's some handheld footage I shot in my garage. Nothing, let's see, let me open it up here. Nothing too special. And let's go ahead, I'll go ahead and retract this footage. So what we have here is I just went ahead and I took my DSLR and I just shot some kind of normal handheld footage in my garage. And I didn't use a fancy tracker or, you know, nothing special, but let's go ahead and I'll just right click it. Instead of track the camera, we're going to track the motion. And we get our little track point here. And the things that I tracked were, is I went ahead and I tracked this little nail right here. And let me bring my tracker options here so you can see what I'm doing. And I also, instead of just position, I also selected rotation. And I just grabbed any sort of point that had some rotation in it. And I just, grabbed something like this. And went ahead and tracked backwards and forwards. Cool, so instead of showing you all that, I already have a null that's been tracked. And so what I did right here is we have our handheld track. We would edit to our target, set it to handheld track, and push OK. And, once I turn that off, go back into my composition. So now we have this null tracked into the shot. Cool, so once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and I'll turn off our handheld footage. And I'm gonna grab our background, the explosion. I'll leave the atmospheres and I'll grab our main plate. I'm gonna put that to the handheld track. And let's go ahead and take a look at that. So now we got that shaky movement happening. And we got some stuff popping off a frame, but like the rest of the tutorials, we've been using those 2:3:5 aspect ratio bars. So we'll worry about that once we see what it looks like with the bars on there. So now that we have our background in there, we have our car bomb in place. Let's go back to this light wrap effect. And what we want it to wrap around is our car bomb, explosion composition. So for a background layer, I'm going to go ahead and select that car bomb. And as you see, it kind of starts to wrap, give us that glow of light around our head. Now this is kind of extreme. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to turn our width down a little bit and kind of just get a little bit of it hitting the back of my head. And I'm going to increase this blend with the original just because this outline is so harsh. So I'm going to go ahead and just increase that a little bit. And so it's real subtle, but it kind of brings in, a little bit of that light element that you would get, if you actually were facing the camera when this was happening. So maybe I'll bring it in just a little bit more. Cool. All right, so we got that set up. Let's go ahead and I'm going to turn off all these layers and do a quick little color correction process with you guys. So let's unsolo everything real quick. And I'm going to make a new adjustment layer. And, might want to spend more time on this, but we'll do this real fast here. And, when we kind of color correct, we just want to make sure everything sort of matches when we start. And I like to do Alt 1, 2, and 3 to look through my channels. But it's a quick way to get a black and white image to kind of see if our whites are sort of matching. And the white on my shirt and the white of this explosion is pretty hot. So what I might do real fast, go to our car bomb layer here. And I'm just going to add a levels. And I'm just going to do Alt 1 again to kind of look at these levels. And I want to match this white a little bit more. So I might just bring the whites down, just a little bit. And it's super subtle, but when we do an overall grade, it'll help a little bit. So let's go back to our color correction here. I'm going to go ahead and use my Phoenix Crush preset, which is a free download, another tutorial if you guys want it. And what this is going to do is going to kind of give me that contrasty crush that I want without oversaturation. So I'm going to bring the darks up. Go ahead and bring the darks up, but I don't want to lose the blacks too much. I might make it a little bit hotter. Let's kind of go here and let's decrease saturation a little bit. All right. And then the curves channel, I might add just a tint of blue into the blacks. All right, so let's kind of see before and after that. We could probably take this, let's get a little crazy. Let's take it even further. There we go. Our blacks are kind of over crushed, but hey, we're losing a little bit of detail, but that's okay for now. All right, cool. So now we're getting somewhere. So we got stuff to our handheld track. We got a little quick color correction in there. Probably would still want this to match a little bit more between the foreground and background. Let's go ahead and I have these aspect bars. Go ahead and bring those in. This is actually set for a 4K comp, so I'm going to do Control-Alt-F to scale it in there. And let's just see what we have really quick. All right, cool. So overall, we got a nice little effect here. If you do a quick cut more on time with the explosion instead of the walking, I think it'll help sell a little bit more. So I'm gonna take a look at that. So one thing I would recommend spending more time with is we could definitely match our foreground and our background just a little bit more. Kind of match those black levels. But overall, these are all the techniques So I hope that helps you guys. We'll do the slow motion matrix style effect, or mannequin, I guess is what everyone's calling it, next week. So that's coming up, and we got, like I said, more stuff coming up next week. So subscribe if you want to see that. We got some giveaways coming up. We got our short film coming out. We got a ton of visual effects breakdowns, motion tracking, all in the next few weeks. So yeah, tune in if you want to see that. Thanks again, and I will see you guys in the next tutorial. So have an awesome Friday.